All right. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Ismael Fonseca, your judge at the 464th District Court. And welcome to tonight's open forum series in which we'll be talking about mental health. I know that's a pretty broad issue, but it's something that we encounter very frequently in the courts. It's been an issue that I've taken a great interest in since I took the bench for reasons that we'll talk about here. So maybe we may narrow it down to substance abuse and people that unfortunately end up having to come before me. So let's get started. We have two specialists, two experts in the field. So I'll introduce them by name and then have them give a little background of what it is that they do and how it is that they've become experts. So let me start with Amy Granberry. Good evening.
Good evening, Judge. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Amy Granberry. I work with Senecor Foundation. I've been in the field for about 22 years. And my role is to help clients enter treatment. I work with a lot of our access and all of our facilities across the state of Texas and Louisiana to ensure that clients can get the help they need as quickly as possible.
Great. And we also have Martha Solis here today. Welcome. Thank you again for being here. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Martha Solis. I'm an LPC. I work for Senecor Foundation. Right now I'm working at the long-term facility. I work with mental health as well as substance use disorders. Have been doing so for about 3 years, kind of same as what Amy is saying, just trying to integrate and, bring population and try to help them out. So I have been in the field for a little bit longer, however, when it comes to mental health and substance use disorders over the last 3 years.
Great. Well, again, thank you for being here. One of the reasons why I wanted to have one of these series focus on mental health is because when I've got on the bench last year and I had an individual that had to be committed because he did not understand what was going on. He had a schizoaffective disorder. And when I was told that, fine, go ahead and commit him to an institution for him to receive treatment, but it's going to take 3 to 4 months for him to get treatment. That seemed to me absurd, ridiculous, quite frankly, for someone to be sitting in jail without getting any treatment. So that's what got me interested in this topic, because we can do more. We can do better for people that are suffering from mental health illness. So I don't know if either one of you wants to comment on that.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Judge. A lot of my role over the years has been public policy and advocacy for both mental health and substance abuse. And one of the numbers we continue to stress is that in Texas, we are currently funded to serve about 10% of the need for mental health and about 6% of the need for substance use disorder services through the indigent system. So there's definitely a very fragile infrastructure and a very not incredibly well-funded infrastructure to meet the need, particularly of indigent clients who are in need of those services. And many people with mental health and substance use disorder have a difficult time maintaining jobs and insurance and all of those things. So they look to the safety net system to meet their needs.
So, I mean, it may cost money now to invest, but in the long run, it seems like we're all suffering from it because it has an effect on how they're able to contribute to society. And ultimately, if they end up in the system, right, Ms. Solis? I mean, especially one of the statistics, and let me bring this up. Across the nation, there are about 2 million people with serious mental health illness that is in jail. Almost 3/4 of whom also have substance abuse issues. Those numbers are just huge. I mean, that there's a relationship, as I see it, between mental health and substance abuse.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that's very dominant in our community is, they're not necessarily just suffering from the substance use disorder, but also mental health. And that's one of the challenges that we see quite often is, there isn't treatment, there aren't programs that are geared, or many programs, I should say, that are geared towards assisting those who are indigent, who don't have, the finances to seek treatment. A lot of times the things that we are seeing is they have not received treatment, but yet they've been dealing with the mental health disorders from a very early age. And generally, that's a lot of times when their substance use disorder or substance problem started. And so it's very unfortunate because they're not receiving the help early on in life when they've experienced traumas, neglect, whatever the case may be, or they are in those households, where the parents are also have substance use issues. And so it's unfortunate because they're carrying this weight with them, the mental health, but now they're trying to self-medicate in a sense. And so the substance use problem ends up becoming a lot more, it kind of dominates their life. And so in terms of being able to contribute to society or, be self-sufficient or be independent or be, good, healthy parents, good relationships, all of that just, ends up being affected. But, it all starts somewhere. And a lot of times, one of the things that we see often is that, it started off with that mental health disorder. And, when they're not receiving the treatment, the support, or even understand what the mental health diagnosis is, as opposed to just the label that they're being given, it ends up, affecting various different aspects of their life. And just, when the help isn't there, it gets a little bit harder for them.
Right. And then you mentioned the label. Does that have something to do with the issues, the problems that we have on labeling people and stigmas? And I don't think it's a big secret that, unfortunately, in our society, and maybe even a bit more in South Texas, we're a bit hesitant to talk about mental health.
I think a lot of it is, based on the lack of knowledge, lack of understanding what it truly means. One of the things I always share with, with a lot of our residents is, the residents that we serve here is, when people don't have an understanding of what it is that you're going through, or that, hey, it's not me, it's these, these emotions I can't control, this chemical imbalance I can't control, or, I need help on. A lot of times people shy away from it because they don't know how to respond. And so, even though the symptoms are there, when the client themselves or the person themselves does not have a true understanding of it, reaching out for help ends up being something difficult just because they feel they're not going to be understood, or they're going to be labeled, or they're, the label that many people say is like, oh, it's because I'm crazy. Well, no, you're not crazy. However, you need a little bit of guidance, you need a little bit of help, but that ends up playing a big role as far as what I've seen over the years, just people not being comfortable in seeking treatment because they don't want to be labeled. They don't want to lose custody of their children, or whatever the case is. It ends up just kind of snowballing, but definitely stigma is a big problem.
So, and I'm not asking you to solve the world's problems, but how do you get past that stigma, that the labels? What can we do other than, I don't want to say other than, but education is obviously key, being open, and that's why I'm trying to do this right now.
Right. Absolutely. I think talks like this are very important. I think engaging communities. I know in the substance use disorder side, particularly, when people that you don't expect to be in recovery come forward and talk about their recovery and talk openly, that helps us break down those barriers. When you can see the success stories, I know when I present, I normally try to bring someone who has several years of recovery with me to talk about, this is where I used to be and this is where I am now. And it's always surprising to the people that we're presenting to, because this person is standing here in a suit and healthy and functioning, and not the picture of what we think around mental health or substance use disorder. And so it surprises them when they see that. And so I think if more people come forward, I know even in my own family, I've worked in this field for 22 years, and I lost a sister-in-law 2 years ago to her alcohol disease, who never spoke to me, never asked for help. And I'm a professional in this field and have done this for 22 years. So the stigma is very dangerous because it does prevent people from seeking the help that they need.
Yeah, that was one of the main questions I got on one of my my chats online with people on breaking that stigma and being open and letting people know that it's something that needs to be talked about. So what do you tell, I mean, how early on do we start seeing mental health affecting individuals? I mean, is this something that's generally until you're older? Is this childhood? I mean, we're talking about a whole variety of when we talk about mental health, we're talking about anywhere from, I guess, depression to schizoaffective disorders. There's a whole gamut. So how can we, and I'm a father of two young kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, who I hope don't interrupt this broadcast with a scream here. I hope my wife's doing a good job keeping them locked away. But how do you, I mean, what do I look at if I'm a parent? And it's obviously something I want to be open about. And I want to make sure that if they have any issues that they can come to me, but sometimes they won't.
There are some disorders that aren't, one can't formally diagnose them until, you're 18 or older. There are some disorders that affect children. I think a lot of times it's just becoming familiar with their behaviors, not only at home, but also at school, their interactions, just to see, if there's anything that you might find to be out of the norm, if you will, so such as, they're not social, or, they used to be really social and, they used to talk to this family member, or they used to be able to carry on conversations or play with others, and now they're kind of pulling away. I'm big on quotes. I'm big on things on social media. So a lot of articles that I come across, it's just looking for certain signs, things that, they used to do, now they're not doing. Or something as simple as, children aren't able to say, hey, I'm feeling anxious. Hey, I'm feeling depressed, but just trying to kind of hone in on maybe some differences from what they normally do, or if they're wetting the bed, that sort of thing. That's something to look at as far as children go. But I think education is going to play a big role in it, in terms of being familiar with, things that can affect them in, different stages of life. When it comes to adults, it's that variety of things that could happen that could have stemmed from childhood, or, that loss of a job, that divorce, the loss of identity, or whatever the case is. I mean, because it could, substance use and mental health can, kind of affect somebody just at any time in their life. But I think a lot of it is going to have to be education, just being familiar with the person, the loved one. Are they pulling away from you? Are they, acting more impulsively? Are they overspending? I mean, it can be an array, huge, spectrum. So I think a lot of it would be the education piece, and just being familiar, or becoming more familiar, I should say, with, how people change, or how certain life stressors can affect them.
Yeah, and the question came from a mother who's been trying to help her son with mental health issues and drug addiction, and she kind of just thought, well, where did I go wrong? What did I do? And how do you answer that? What do you tell a parent that's we want to think that we can solve it all for our children, and that if they have a problem, that it's going to go away because I'm going to step in. So what do you tell a parent like that, that's putting all the blame on himself or herself?
That's kind of a tough question. I haven't necessarily worked with a lot of parents, but I would say, it's just one of those things, just trying to, again, educate them that a lot of times it's not necessarily, the environment, it's always that nature versus nurture. It's not necessarily always the environment, but also just the person themselves, that their inability, not because you weren't able to do or provide or teach them, but just their inability to, manage or effectively manage their emotions, or, life stressors again, because I definitely see where it would be something like, oh gosh, what did I do? What could I have done differently? But at the end of the day, one of the things that, I encourage our community here, our residents, mind you, they're adults, but it's not anything that you specifically did or didn't do. It's just how you tried coping with it or how you weren't able to cope with it. So it's a little bit of a tough question when it comes to parents. But I think, just kind of taking a look at the environment as a whole, maybe not necessarily just at home, but at school, their social circle, support system, and, just I think that education is going to be a huge role in that.
And if I can jump in, I've talked to a lot of parents over the years, and the first thing that I try to remind them is, with mental health and substance use disorder, these are actually recognized medical diseases. And they either chemical imbalance, whichever part of the brain, but they are recognized medical disorders, and a parent can't cause them in any way. There's when the Surgeon General actually put out the first ever report in 2017 on substance use disorder, and really gave us a lot of statistics, and really defined substance use disorder as a chronic progressive relapsing disease, and for the first time very publicly. And when you put that disease in that context, and you start thinking about it in relation to other chronic progressive relapsing diseases like diabetes, like high blood pressure, like chronic breathing issues, nobody caused those things either. There's something different in the makeup of the person, and you have to find treatment for it, and then you have to live every day with that treatment. And so really trying to share that with families and really educate on the disease process, so that they understand it, and they understand that it's a daily event, that people need to make a choice on what they're going to do to handle their disease today. And try to give that to the families so that they understand that they didn't cause anything. Yes, there's ways we can prevent, there's ways we can intervene early, all of those things, but the actual cause was not necessarily a person causing it.
Right. But that just gives us a little bit more homework as parents, of being more aware of changes in behavior, and that's kind of what I got from you, Martha. You got to be more cognizant, that be more vigilant than you already should be as a parent, and to just be educated, and be mindful of what can happen. So thank you for that. Now, let me go back to some policy issues. You talked about the 10%, meeting barely 10% of the needs in our state. I was reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that actually Texas is one of the top states in actually addressing issues with mental health. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
Usually we rank pretty low on the dollars that we spend, but it is a very large state and a very large area to cover with a lot of people. We do have some very progressive things that we're trying. Diversion courts have done well in Texas. I serve on the Specialty Courts Advisory Council, and get to review diversion courts across the state. So we do have some things that are progressive there, where we've added some sobering centers. We're starting to work towards not criminalizing mental health and substance use, and trying to get people the help that they need. And so we have made some progress there. But it is a very large state with a lot of people, and requires a lot of resources to meet those needs.
It does. I guess maybe we're looking, I was reading at percentages. But let's talk about those diversion courts. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. So there are a variety of specialty courts across the state, both for mental health, substance use disorder, and other topics. Veterans is one of the newer diversion courts. They can be pre-trial diversion or post-trial diversion, where someone actually, comes into the court, rather than them being sentenced, they're offered the treatment services and wrapped around with case management, treatment, a variety of things that they have to follow and continue checking in, with the judge, continue checking in with their probation officer if that's part of it, and gives them an opportunity to go that route rather than spend time in jail. And we've seen those work well for mental health, substance use disorder, and veterans. And I know there aren't as many of them as we would like to see, but there are some of those courts operating throughout the state.
Actually, in our county, we have drug court, mental health court, and veterans court. We have the three that you've mentioned, which is a great thing. But as you stated, resources are limited, and they need to screen people, and not everybody can be a part of those programs, which allow a bit more personalized experience because they check in with the court more regularly, with probation, so with the judge, with the probation department, to check on their progress, making sure that they're getting treatment that they need. So those seem to be working from what I see. In my year on the bench, I haven't seen anyone that has been transferred over to the veteran court or the drug court or the mental health court, having to come back to me for sentencing. So they seem to be effective, but I'm guessing the drawback's going to be money, right?
Definitely. We can do anything if we have enough money.
That is true. And, I take great pride in being fiscally conservative and making sure that taxpayer dollars are saved. But when it comes to this, to having these programs available, and just in mental health generally, I think we're doing a poor job, because, I mean, once you have these substance abuse issues, I mean, that leads to going into the system, right? I mean, you're doing something that's illegal, by using either prescription medication or any other controlled substance, and then you end up being before me in court. So it's already, I'm the last person they should see. And sometimes it's the first time that they're in any way trying to get some help, but it's already late. I mean, if it weren't because of these programs where we have the specialty courts, they shouldn't be before me. We shouldn't be spending the money on more courts, more probation officers, when we can take care of this early. You'd agree? Sure.
Absolutely. We have prevention programs across the state, that start in elementary and junior high, and people are familiar with Red Ribbon Week and with prevention education a little bit. But we could do more. We could do more prevention. Then capturing that treatment, as Martha was talking about, so many people don't get the help when they're young, and then we end up seeing them as adults later on, and you see them in your court as adults. And so, the more resources we can put towards that, and the more available we can make services for people, the better we will be. And I will tell you, as also a very fiscal conservative, the numbers are real. There's a published research number that for every dollar you spend on treatment, you save $4 to $10 in additional services. And when you annualize those numbers, the numbers get very large, and the things included in that savings. And what's difficult is you can't point to a line item in the budget and show a direct decrease in something in one line item. And so it's hard to show that. But you decrease the use of CPS cases, you decrease the time spent in jail, you decrease the time spent in emergency rooms with uncompensated care. You decrease, all of those things, and you return someone who reaches recovery, both mental health recovery and substance use disorder recovery, to being a tax-paying, productive citizen. And so then you have the extra impact of them working, paying taxes, and supporting the system. And so the numbers are huge. So it really does make fiscal sense to invest in treatment early and treatment accessibility.
Wow, that's a big number. 4 to 10 for every dollar invested in early treatment of a mental health illness or disorder. That's huge. I hadn't heard that number, but that's thank you for bringing that up. I hope that's something that we can all take, and hopefully our legislature can do something. So what can we do? What is available to people? I know that you said the resources are limited, but what can be done early on before they get before me and I had my hands tied by the law.
Sure. There is a treatment center. There is treatment available in Texas. I mean, again, the indigent funding is restricted, but the closest residential facility in the valley that has been detox is actually our Corpus Christi location, and that location serves people from the valley and Laredo and the whole area regularly. There's outpatient available that in the valley with a number of providers for someone that's early in their, there's a number of different pathways to recovery. And so there are outpatient services available. There's recovery support services available. Recovery support is a peer who's in recovery, who's been trained to work with someone and provide them support and help them navigate the system. You have mental health services available through Tropical Texas in your area, and people can, and they serve all the way down, children, adolescents, and adults, and you can access services there, and they can help make referrals to other facilities as well. So they're there. They're limited, and sometimes you have to wait for them. But services are available, and so I would encourage people to, we have an access center at Centacor. I have 25 agents that answer the phones 7 days a week, and you can even start with us. Call us, and we'll direct you to other resources. We get a lot of requests for just information. What might be available. I think your adolescent treatment services are actually can be even more difficult to access than your adult treatment services. There's fewer adolescent treatment centers available, but they're there too. Sometimes because substance use disorder, and the ties that we all have to Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, we as a field haven't done a great job of putting things out publicly. And so sometimes you have to search a little bit to get to the right websites and that kind of thing. And so just keep looking. You put in substance use, put in mental health on your search, and you're going to find things that come up. SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the U.S., the federal piece, has a treatment locator on their website. And you can go in and find your location, and it will bring up resources that are available in your communities as well. And so that's a good starting place for people to start looking for help and find the services they need.
That's great. Now, I don't know, Martha, if you can talk more about substance abuse and maybe the younger a younger crowd, the adolescents and juveniles, and what kind of problems we see there. Because you're the substance abuse expert.
And so again, I don't necessarily have a lot of hands-on experience with adolescents in this particular population. However, one of the things that and I said it a bit earlier, it starts at a very young age. So that prevention aspect of it, and as Amy said, there's adolescent programs. So again, when the adolescent, the teenager, you start seeing those issues, those struggles, it's having those conversations, educating them about, where you are now, where it can lead you in the long run. And there are programs out there. One of the things that, as we all know, we were all a teenager once, just that defiance, it's at, that stage of their life as well, to where it's like, hey, I'm trying to identify who I am. I'm figuring out who I'm going to be whenever I grow up. So those are some of the challenges that, anybody and everybody is going to face when it comes to working with adolescents. It's, not only are they dealing or trying to figure out who they are, just, growing up, just identifying, who their support group is, who they can trust. That also plays a role in, trying to help and trying to lead them in a good, positive direction. But, it's something that definitely the resources, again, are limited. However, they are there, and educating parents, maybe, bringing certain organizations or whatnot into schools and just trying to educate them. And, as Amy said, a lot of times what is very effective is when they hear somebody who's now in recovery, who can share their story, their testimony. Hey, this is when I first started. This is what I did. That sort of thing, because I think that hands-on experience works wonders in comparison to somebody who's not in recovery. I say that because I'm not in recovery. However, that's something that I share with a lot of our clients. They, not to say that they don't trust. However, when they can see somebody who's lived it, who has been able to make progress over the years, I think that ends up being, that has a greater impact. And so, I would say for adolescents as well, it works the same way. If you were able to bring somebody before them, to teach them, hey, I started whenever I was 12, I started whenever I was 13, here's where it led me. I think that can have a great impact. So again, I keep saying the education piece, but I think that's something that can definitely go a long way. It's just educating where some of these issues, some of these choices can lead somebody. I don't have any children of my own, but my nieces and nephews, I talk to them about, the population that I work with, and, just kind of trying to educate them. And they understand, and sometimes they have questions, or, they're not going to share everything with them. But I think that's something, definitely don't want to do that. But, I think it's something that they can definitely learn from, and just try to grasp a better understanding of, hey, making these choices that maybe aren't the greatest, or, that I think are going to be short-lived. Oh, no big deal. It's not a problem. It's just this, or it's just a drink. How it can, evolve into a chronic issue. So I think just that early onset, that preventative, and, just really trying to teach them, I think it can work wonders for some.
Do you see if where's the failure when it comes to substance abuse? If there is one, I don't want to convict our community or our system. Are we doing enough? Is there something more that can be done? Obviously, like you said, we had all the money in the world, that we definitely would. But is there something more immediate that we can do?
That's a tough question. Because we can always do more. We can always do more. And I know I sound like a broken record, but that education piece, I think that's just something that can go a very, very long way. And just making it known. Amy mentioned a few organizations that are closer to your area. Just putting it out there. Hey, there's help if you find yourself coming across an issue, or you're feeling those emotions that are overwhelming. Hey, we are here. There are people out there who are willing to help. I think that's one of the things that will, can forever make a difference.
I would say on some specifics for parents, is there particularly, teenagers they're going to go for things that are easy access first, and especially the younger teenagers. So if there's a medicine cabinet at home, if mom and dad have had, maybe there's a prescription, that kind of thing, keep really good control of those. Take advantage of your prescription take back days in your community. Don't keep those things in your home. As a parent, I've chosen, of course, I've worked in the field for 22 years, so my 16-year-old doesn't have a chance about about work. So and his friends too. When they're at the house, we have some really honest conversations, because I've got a bunch of 16-year-old boys at my house all the time. And, so we have some very honest conversations. I wanted to add, I thought of it while Martha was talking. In the last legislative session, we actually made a lot of progress on mental health. And there's an addition that's coming to communities. I know it was moving forward before COVID. I'm not sure where it is now. But there was a bill that required each of your education service centers to have a mental health coordinator, and to really start focusing on mental health in the school systems. And so that's coming to your school. So there's going to be more resources available to parents in the schools. So I would certainly, partner with them, reach out to them. If you feel like there's something that's a little off, you don't have to be the person to talk to the kid. You can find someone that can help you with that. We really have tried to increase that focus on the younger kids, because if we can catch this and get it under control and get the right medications and do what we need to do for the mental health piece before they ever find the substance use piece, then you're only dealing with one thing instead of two. And you can do that for a lifetime. So there are some of those resources coming to each of those areas. And so, COVID has sidetracked a lot of things. And I think it's probably a good time to even say that our biggest concern is, we know that addiction is a disease of isolation. And as we have asked people to isolate to keep from passing COVID to each other, we're going to see a rise. You're going to see a rise in depression. You're seeing a rise in anxiety. You're seeing a rise in substance use. I mean, when they opened up online alcohol sales, they skyrocketed by 254% the first month, with Texas leading the way at 55% increase. We like to go in Texas, and we do it in all things. And so we're going to see continued problems, that isolation. And if a child was already struggling with maybe a little depression, check on them now, because for all of us, I know, at least speaking personally, for the last 6 months, my world's been completely different, and I feel isolated and away from people, and trying to still function and work and continue helping people. And so there's a lot that's going to come out of this current situation that we find ourselves in, and we need to be ready to see it and address it quickly, and get people the help that they need.
And unfortunately, it's gotten all the way to the courts. I've seen a rise in my own court, domestic violence issues, because people who are struggling with issues, whether it be just marital problems, but like you said, they're isolated, and some of these people are having a lot of trouble with it. If they have depression, if they have the substance abuse. So that's unfortunately one of the problems that are arising from the isolation that we've been these last 6 months, are really coming to head now. It's too much. We're social beings, and being locked up away is not helping at all. But it's good to know. Thank you for bringing that up. That our schools will have one more tool at our disposal, and knowing that we've got to take better care of medication that may be readily available, alcohol. Not me, but my sister. I'm going to put my sister on the spot, but I know that she had access once or twice to the alcohol cabinet at my grandparents' house. So it's easy. And we need to make sure we're aware. We take care of that, and prevent our children prevent them from having easy access. So thank you very much for that. let's see if we can bring in some questions from the public. Mari.
Hello. All right. So there are some questions on here. I believe you may have touched on some of them in conversation, but I will go with a question from Jessie Gianna. Where can we find these resources for substance abuse? Is there a number to call for information?
Sure. In general, I would say, the SAMHSA website is a good starting place. And specifically for us, our Synacor.org is our website, and we have locations across the state and a lot of information on our website. So it could be a starting place for you. Our phone number's on their website, and also a form that you can fill out and just email for information. We can provide additional information. The internet is our friend. You can find anything on the internet. And so if you're looking for substance abuse or substance use disorder, if those keywords will bring up a number of resources for you. And mental health the same way. You're going to get pages of resources, and then you can go from there to sort through those.
Martha, you have any others?
No, I was going to say Google is my best friend. I encourage everybody to use any kind of search engines. And just like Amy said, sometimes it takes a little bit of digging, just kind of changing up the keywords that you're looking at, mental health for adolescents, mental health for adults, just kind of changing it up a little bit. But the internet is your best friend.
And I can make it a little easy, and some of these websites that you've cited, I'll put them on my page. So it's easy access, especially for whoever asked that question. Anything else, Mari?
Yes, there's another question from a Rogelio Aleman. How would you deal with veterans dealing with PTSD or some type of mental health?
So anybody want to take that one?
So I can touch a little bit on that. Our facility here, Synacor Foundation, we on the program that I work with, the long-term program, we do have some veterans. However, there are veteran-geared programs. So again, going through the VA, that's another option. Seeking information from them, seeing if they have any referral sources. But there are programs that are specifically geared towards veterans. Like I said, our foundation, we actually have a veteran-specific program. And so it would work the same way, just gathering that information. But Synacor would be another start.
So for what I would add for that, for all of our veterans, is remind you that you are eligible for community care. The VA is not always the easiest system to work through. And I would encourage veterans, we advocate on a daily basis for veterans to get the services they need, but there is community care available. So if your VA locally doesn't have the service you need, they can get it for you, and they are supposed to help you get that. There's some great, veteran only. We certainly can take veterans for substance use disorder, but there are some veteran only projects across the state. I'm trying to think of the names right now, but I can certainly get some of those websites and send them to Madi to add to your resource page, Judge, because there are some that focus they only accept veterans. And we do have a partnership with the VAs across the state, and are more than happy to take a veteran that has the substance use disorder issues as well. So
great. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. We definitely want to make sure that we can help our veterans. So thank you very much, Mr. Aleman, for that question. Anything else, Madi?
Okay, I have one of them is a comment from a Joanne Vargas. She states that testimony is also a healing process. And in addition to that conversation that we had, Amanda Garza asked, would you say that working with the parents is just as important as working with the patient?
Not in the affirmative.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the education piece is huge. When a parent understands where the child, the adolescent may be coming from, just, it can, it'll better assist them in helping that child just because they know, they understand, they have a good grasp of what it is that may be going on.
And I would say even beyond the adolescents, even our adult programs include a family program. And we bring in the families of our adults that we're treating, and that could be their spouse, it could be their children, it could be their parents. As we see younger adults seeking treatment, working with their parents as well. And so absolutely we support family involvement in treatment.
I mean, they're the closest people to us, and if they're a way to help with that process, then it's great to be able to include them in it. I'm sure you have a lot of family members that are more than willing to assist if you make that call and ask for them to help in the process. So thank you, Ms. Garza, for mentioning that and for asking that question. Anything else, Marty?
No, Judge, those are all the questions.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for being here. I don't know if you have any closing remarks. Either one.
I just want to say thank you for having us. I think the more communities that have more conversations, the better we will be able to address these issues. When you're in the middle of this, if it's substance use, if it's mental health and substance abuse, if it's just mental health, you can feel very alone as the family member that's watching someone struggle, and you're not sure where to go, and you feel like you're the only person. And so the more that we can give safe spaces for those communities to come together and talk, if it's substance use disorder, I always recommend to family members that they find an Al-Anon meeting. If it's mental health, I think the NAMI, Alliance Around Mental Illness, is a fantastic family support space to get the education and the support that they need. And so I just thank you for bringing up this topic. When we have our judges and our elected officials interested in supporting their communities, it goes a long way to moving communities forward. So thank you.
I'll do whatever I can, which isn't much, but even if it's just this. Anything else? You're closing. Anything you want to say? I feel like I'm in trial.
I'd also like to thank you. I think it's great. Just that knowledge, that education, I think is going to be key. Just making some of these issues known to the public in a sense, because knowing that you're not alone, just like Amy is saying, and we all know it, we feel better knowing, hey, somebody else understands what it is that one is going through, and I think that can make a big difference. So just the education, the knowledge, and I don't want to say normalize, but having an understanding that, just because one has been given a label, one has had an issue, it doesn't make you any less than, or it doesn't make you not worthy of, because, we all deal with stressors. We're all going to deal with whatever it is that life throws at us. And, it's just a matter of, being hands-on with it, just really trying to address it as it's coming about, and knowing that, a lot of people go through many things, one just may not know about it.
Right. And we need to keep that in mind. And, I'll tell people, one of the things that came out of this, having more people that have gone through this or are still going through this, stepping up and helping destigmatize the problem. That seems to be, we talked several times about that. So I thought that was very interesting that we those who have been through it can be the catalyst for change, and know that we're not here to judge anybody. And as I've told everybody before, you want to reach out to me personally. I'm on Facebook and I answer all the questions. If you send something my way, you'll get a response within a day. And if any of you that are watching need a referral, need to speak to one of these two ladies or anybody else, or you just need someone to hear you out, make sure you reach out and know that that I'll be here, that I'll do my best to make sure that you get the help that you need with the resources that I have at my disposal in making those referrals. And know that I take very seriously these specialty courts. The drug court, the mental health court, the veterans court are excellent tools that I will continue to use, and that I pray we get more funding for, because they have been very good to making sure people get the help that they need. So thank you all very much again for being here, everybody for tuning in. This may be a time to call your legislators and those that are running for office and bring this issue to the forefront. Because if you're saving $4 to $10 for every $1 invested in mental health, then it's very much worth it. Not only because of the money that's being saved, but because it's going to make a difference in people's lives, ultimately in your life, your family, and your community. So I'll leave you with those words. Thank you very much, ladies, for your time. I know it's toward the end of the day after work, and time is precious, and I really appreciate that. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks for our next series on the Open Forum. That's when I get to be a little bit more of a nerd, because we're talking about constitutional law. And we'll have two lawyers from our community who will be here to talk about some recent Supreme Court decisions, very interesting Supreme Court decisions. And it's important because it affects your daily life. It affects your community. What the Supreme Court does is not just, what do 9 people on a bench say about the law? It really dictates a lot of what happens. Discrimination, religious liberties, all that is taken up by the Supreme Court. And we'll talk about some of those decisions next time on our Open Forum series. Again, thank you, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a good day, everyone.